stop fucking! You fucking boy, you think you're gonna mess with me now? I'm Thane Crisp. I know what I'm doing. Now fucking lie down. And that's how I talk like him.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Campaign Corner, your venue for all things tabletop. A chance to hear about the RPGs that you've played with a different guest every episode. If you're looking for a previous installment, you can find the links to them down below. Today's adventure is Mark Trepanier. Mark is one of my old improv comedy buddies who's authored his fair share of homebrew campaigns. He'll be taking us through one such sci-fi adventure called Wyvern. Let's roll initiative. Welcome to the third episode of Campaign Corner. We're just talking about moth memes, so we're trying to stay on track. That's very much going to date this episode, by the way. So,
alright.
We had a little back and forth about what campaign experience you might want to draw on that was the most memorable to you.
Right.
And I believe you settled on a sci-fi game that you ran for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm still doing it. I keep having like huge pauses in between games. Like there'd be like, when are you gonna play? When are we gonna play? It'd be like 3 months or 6 months or a year, and they'd be like, so today? And I'd be like, yeah, okay, we did it. Good, fine, let's go to the basement. And yeah, so it's been several years running. I've lost a player since, but I've gained 2 more. But we still have only played once since then.
Okay.
We're gonna do a practice run because I'm changing systems.
When you say you're changing systems, what was this campaign originally?
It was we were running it on 5th edition D&D.
Okay.
And now we are going to be switching over to Starfinder. I was actually really excited about Starfinder coming out because sci-fi, and I was sick of faking it through 5th. 5th edition had like rules in the book for like lasers and shit, but wasn't enough.
So what's the name of this campaign?
It is the Wyvern campaign. I named it the Wyvern campaign based on Serenity.
Really? The TV show?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, all right. So it's a I guess more based on Firefly, right? The thing. So it's called the Wyvern campaign because the players have a ship that is a Wyvern class ship. Whereas, in Firefly, it was a Firefly ship that was called the Serenity. So the movie was called Serenity, the show was called Firefly. So the game is called Wyvern, named after the ship type. So you know how the Firefly looked like in the show? It was like a big ship with a big old butt. And I had to make it so, like, well, how can I make the ship like a fucking Wyvern? So I didn't really know what to do. I made it basically the same ship as the fucking Firefly, but it had a Wyvern stinger.
Oh, okay.
It had a tail that doubled as a propeller, or it had propulsion, but it could also be used as a weapon. So it was like, this can make you go do the forwards, but it can also make you go do the destroys.
Starfinder is definitely the best fit for
exactly.
Yeah, it was a long time coming.
I'm very excited about it. That and also Starfinder Munchkin when that comes out.
I guess I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's not out yet. We'll see.
So, how long were you involved in this game? For what was the first kind of doodles and inspirations? What year was it?
Fuck, I don't know.
Mark in front of him right now has the what I call the campaign Bible. He has like just an impressive amount of notes and maps and names and things like that.
I feel like I have to say like maybe 2-3 years. Like it's not like we didn't play that long.
Yes.
Just because I'm super lazy, but like definitely started about that amount of time because like the person I was playing with has left like well over a year ago, and it also took me a long time to actually start the game with them.
Okay.
So yeah, it is about that long. There's a lot of backstory, but it's mostly backstory.
Now you were the DM, correct?
Yeah. I didn't get anybody for me to play. Yeah.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
That's all right.
But yeah, I ran it, and I still kind of hope other people like take the helm so that I can do it. because I really, really like the setting that I made.
That's actually a good segue because I was about to ask you
That's-
what the setting was like. What the land, I saw you have a very long list of different planets.
Yes, let's see. So, a lot of the planets are based off of the races that were in 5th edition, and I changed some of it based on what I got from Starfinder. So let's see. Actually, you know what, dude? Is that not here? I also have a map of the star system somewhere.
I saw that.
It's somewhere. But, yeah, so there's a ton of planets. Let's see. Well, 20 plus.
25-ish? Okay.
20 plus planets really had their own star systems, most of them. 3 that were Earth-like, and then every other planet was like in a different star system where they were their only life there. I based it a lot on Nordic religion. A lot of the planets are named after either Nordic words or whatever. Like, here we go. One of the Earth planets is named Fjarlag. I don't remember what that means. I have an Icelandic dictionary that is what gave me that, and then I've got I think the main planet for the humans was Jorth, which is the one of the gods of Earth in Asatru. Right now, the players are on the planet Pethro, which is named after one of the letters. It's the one that looks like a bent out of shape C, like a C that's not gonna make it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that planet I based on Pandora.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about from Borderlands?
Oh, from Borderlands.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking more like classical Pandora. Like.
No. Yeah. So I got stuff from Nordic culture, Firefly, and then the Borderlands game series. Just because I really dug that game, and I'm still waiting on 3.
It's probably one of the most unique blenders of campaign foundations I've heard so far.
I am easily distracted by things, so it's just it'd be great. Let's put Brick in, and maybe a little bit of vampires. Oh, you know what else I did? I did add a little bit of information from Vampire the Masquerade in here as well.
Okay. In what way?
Well, I wanted there to be vampires in the campaign because I just love putting vampires in my campaign, but I really don't like that. Like, D&D has their normal vampire fucking character or whatever creature in the game, and it's Strahd, and then they've just got the normal vampire in their monster manual, which is basically just Strahd again. It's all Strahd. It's all Dracula.
Yes.
Vampires with the Dracula powers. But
there's so many different other kinds of vampires. There's Nosferatu types. There's the kind of Japanese hopping vampire types.
Right, Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke is an example of a vampire. Yep.
And
just watch Iron Man 2. He clearly he was on some shit. He definitely had been he'd been on a hunting binge.
A lot of unnatural daylight in that movie.
Don't watch Iron Man 2. # boycott Iron Man 2. I'm sorry, Marvel. We're going there. It's not one of your strongest interests.
I still need to see 3.
So, you had some vampires. Vampires in space? Is this kind of like a Dead Space kind of thing?
No, alright, so think about it like this, right? Say there's vampires in Galarian, which is your Pathfinder setting or whatever.
Yep, Pathfinder Earth.
Now let's get to the times where people are working day jobs.
Yeah.
Well,
like vampire supervisors and middle management, so to speak.
Well, I'm just saying they would still have to exist, right? Like,
yes.
No one's wiping out vampires. But nobody wiped out vampires, and now thousands of years come, and so now we're space travelers. Where do the vampires go? I mean, there's practically no sun in space. Why not do that? I also had like a mechanic that was like, how does the sun work? How does rest work for vampires in space? There's no sunlight, but it was never really based on if there was sun on how you should sleep. Vampires should still have to do some sort of rest or something, right?
For 8 hours, some kind of hibernation.
Right. But I mean, maybe you have to like designate a planet as your own sleep cycle. So, say vampires still have to stay out of sunlight, but they also have to have rest during a specific time based on their designated planet choice. So if they come from Jorth, they still have to be asleep from fucking on a different planet 7 to 4, or else they'll take some sort of damage based on whatever holy entity is casting the goodness on their original planet. Not very important, but it was just a thought in my head. It still actually hasn't really come to fruition. There's only been one vampire that my players have met, and he was played by Al. Alberto, by the way. When you play D&D with Al always names all of his characters he's ever fucking made start with the letters A-L.
Really?
Yeah, he won't back down from that.
It's a bit of a self-insert.
It's cute. So what is this? He's had Al. One of his characters was named Algernon. No, we played Blood Bowl and he named his team after Algernon the mouse, and he chose the rat race specifically because he just can't stop.
Okay.
But this time he did another known character. He made a vampire character named Alucard.
Oh my god. That's like beautiful but also terrible at the same time.
What was annoying is he decided, like I told him, all right, you can name your character Alucard, and he was like, cool. You're a half vampire, cool? And he's like, yeah, I'm a half vampire. And then we finally play, and again, it takes me a while to start up. And he's just like, he doesn't tell anybody, I'm gonna be Alucard specifically from that vampire anime.
What, from Hellsing?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
He just decided, I am the vampire Alucard from Hellsing. I do this. And I'm like, homie, what are you doing? And he's just trying to do all these impossible stunts, and he's being this impossible douchebag. And I'm like, you realize you're only a half vampire, and you do not have all of these amazing abilities, right? You don't have that.
It's like Castlevania in Borderlands in Dead Space.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, that is a mouthful.
But yeah. How the fuck did we get here? That's my setting.
All right, tell me about like what is one planet that you think was very developed, based on some of those references you gave me. You had a few Earth-like planets, right?
There was the one that we had done the most stuff on was Fjarlæg.
Mm-hmm.
And like you don't really get to know a lot about Fjarlæg. It's just one town specifically. I don't remember the name of it right now. It was a small. In my head, it looked like an old western, but with a dock for spaceships. So where there would be ocean, it still looked like a normal fucking dock, but in the desert, and it was just sand behind it.
Interesting.
And that's where a bunch of spaceships would come. There was an empirical force, kind of like in Firefly. Like they were kind of evil, but you couldn't really tell. And they were the emperor of that was Emperor Aelme Rabsolga. I loved his name.
Okay.
So it was sort of like a shitty western town, but with futuristic elements that were only, here and there. There were a ton of like steampunkish ruffians in the area, and in the desert, maybe I always say 5 miles. 5 miles away from the town, and there's like, I think 30 miles of sand until you reach another town. Is a small like casino, like maybe the size of the building we're in right now.
Okay. And
it was run by a guy named Thane Krisk, and he basically was Kingpin.
Oh, from the Marvel universe.
Yeah, so he kind of looked like, in my head, he looked like Kingpin. So yeah, it was a small town. There was one character in it that basically, and going back to Borderlands, you remember Mr. Torg? So it was Mr. Torg. He ran a gym in the town, and he was just a really, really sweet muscle head, just like Mr. Torg. And they actually got to like recruit his help at one point as well. But yeah, small town. Other than that, Pethro, which is fuck tons away, was just Pandora. Everything looked just like a Pandora town. I can't remember any of the names of those areas, but Fjarlæg is where I started, and that's where I just kind of really felt involved.
So you were the DM.
Yeah.
And we've learned a little bit about what your setting was, what your inspirations were.
Yeah.
Who actually was in this campaign with you? Who did you seek out?
So I only had 2 people in the campaign. My 2 buds, they're incredibly great. Lou, he lives downstairs.
Oh, he lives downstairs.
He lives downstairs. We're all in the same building. And then Nico, who moved away to Seattle. And yeah, it was just them 2. Right now, it's Lou Morgan Bunn. but we still haven't done much. With Lou and Nico, we did a ton. They even fucked my story enough where there was a you know that thing DMs do where like sure, I'll give him a thing that makes wishes.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
You gotta make it a monkey's paw, dude.
A monkey's paw?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I did. I never told them how many wishes they got. And then, like, once they made a few, I was just like, I think I'm done giving you wishes. That's how many wishes you got. You did it.
What kind of things did they wish for?
What was so I think it was only 2 wishes. So Elme Rob Zolga, he's a bad dude, right? Emperor. They sort of like conquered a ton of star systems.
So you would say he was a bad enough dude to be able to conquer that star system.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so Lou, in a panic, he took the wishing device, which was a dagger. The last thing he wished for was another wishing dagger.
Did you actually allow that?
I did, but I fucked with it. So one of the things he wished for was, I wish Aelme Rob Solgo was dead.
Just straight up instant death.
Instant death. And so I instantly brought him to Aelme Rob Solgo's death. It says in the book, like, it was an example in the book, and I just took it because I didn't want him to just end my campaign. Because, you know, Aelme Rob Solgo was supposed to be the end game. One of the examples in the wherever items are in the fucking 5th edition, it's just like, if someone makes a wish and they wish for someone to be dead, instead of just killing them, why not bring them to a point where they die naturally? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Fuck that. So I bring them 30 years into the future. We're already in the future. Now we're 30 years further into the future. Elme Rob Zolga dies naturally. They're 30 years stuck in the future. And at this time, they're in space on their ship. And then they make another wish where it's, they wish for another dagger of wishes. Lou does it in a panic because the obvious wish they were supposed to make wasn't made. And so it's him, Nico's character, and then a character that I created called Star Baby, who I based off of Tank Girl, who Lou stabbed in the hand because he was questioning her. And that's how Lou questions people.
Yikes.
I bring them to a wish dagger. Instead of bringing a dagger to them, I take them, all 3, off of the ship, because they were all next to each other, to an underground dungeon next to a wishing dagger on a pedestal. That, I should mention, they cannot make wishes with. I had to come up with some sort of fucking scheme that stops them from being able to do that, because I have to fix it. What is cool is, again, I said it's based on Nordic mythology, some bits. The wishing dagger that they now have, which I believe Lou's character holds both, it has Loki inside it.
Oh.
I mean, if Lou listens to this, now he knows that, because he didn't know it before. They haven't really done anything with the dagger since.
Okay.
But yeah, it has a Loki in it.
Honestly, from past experience, if you DMs out there ever have something stall, best way to kickstart a campaign plot point, just fucking put Loki in there.
Put Loki in.
I've done it.
What's wrong with this toaster?
It makes everything better. It makes everything better.
Unfortunately, they haven't really done anything with it yet. They kind of just caused a little bit more havoc after.
As players do.
Yeah.
What were their alignments like? Do you remember anything about that? What kind of motivations did these players have?
So, alright. So Nico's character, we're going to call Woken. His name was Woken.
Yep.
Woken was an austere, who I actually have changed the name of his race. So the austere are Minotaurs.
Oh, okay.
So I basically took the 5th edition Minotaur and then made it playable.
Mm-hmm.
In my universe, at the time, pre-Rob Zolga, pre-Wish, austeres were slaves. So Woken had to wear an electronic thing around his neck that was disabled. And what it was like a safety mechanism that stopped austere from fighting back. Fucking light years away from the Empire is the planet Austere where those Minotaurs live. And in fact, Woken's family lived there still. He was a slave away from his family. And he was basically, he was good. I think he was chaotic good, and he fucking lost it every time anything having to do with slavery came up. Anything having to do with talking ill of Minotaurs came up. He lost it, and he was incredibly strong, and so he was hard to handle. Most of our encounters, he was just like, I'm gonna go rip shit and destroy everything. And I'm like, all right.
What class did he play as?
He was a barbarian. He was a barbarian Minotaur, and he could not be stopped. There was a certain point where he just could not be stopped.
Sounds about right.
And at that point, you just gotta, you gotta buck up and stop trying. It's a TV show, right? He's gonna win. Lou's character, whose name was Rontarius Sojourn, he was a rogue pirate who had an alias. He had a special alias named Ron Swanson. No, you know what? I think Ron Swanson was his real name, and Rontarius Sojourn was his alias. So Rontarius Sojourn worked for the Empire, and that's how he could get in and out of shit and never get, like, stuck by the Empire. Up until he goes 30 years into the future, something cataclysmic happens that makes it so, like, so we know this guy's a fuck up. If he ever shows up again, kill his ass.
He was wanted.
Right, but now it's 30 years in the future, so we don't know. We know that he should be 30 years older. That's about what we got. But yeah, his character, he named Ron Swanson after Ron Swanson from The Office.
Was he just...
from Parks and Rec.
Was he just a human?
He was, actually. So there's another planet of elves that was basically for several years under quarantine. The Emperor wants to stop people from using magic. Magic exists, but it's definitely illegal, so they quarantined off the elven planets and called them terrorists. Ron Swanson's character is half-elf, and he has his ears clipped to look human.
Wow. That's pretty hardcore, actually.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. There is another character who's gone missing. She's just like, when we first started the adventure, she is just a known person. She's like a known historical figure. Her name is Annie Rocket. She is a resistance leader trying to stop Elmer Rob Zolga, and she goes missing for fuck ever. Lou's character, Ron, is there when she goes missing, but he didn't understand it completely. He was on an Imperial ship, as she was, and she dropped... I think he's just always had it. Shit. I think... So, she had the wish dagger, and she was going to make an all-important wish to stop the Empire. But for some reason, she waited to do it on the Imperial ship. And he found himself running towards her, running away from the Empire for a different reason than she was. And they bump into each other. They drop both of their daggers. He picks up hers. She picks up his. And then she's never seen from again. And then a while later, he finds out what he has. And, 30 years later, like I said, Elmer Obzolgar, the Emperor, he is now dead. Who takes his place but his wife, Annie Rocket? So in the 30 years, information that's hidden and then comes to fruition is that Annie Rocket, for some reason, went from missing to found, and it was because that she had this relationship with Elmer Obzolga, and now she is the Empress.
It's a huge plot twist, actually.
That is a huge plot twist. If you get into it, it's not really... Not everything's like in the up and up. There's a huge entity that's been controlling everything, including Ailme, and now Annie.
So I understand that there's a lot of different NPCs that you designed for this setting, many of whom you didn't get to use or you didn't get to use as much as you would have liked. What were some of your proudest creations?
There was a character near the end of, before the 30-year jump. There was a character who I based off of Major from Ghost in a Shell. It was a young man named also Major, but it was spelled using like the Nordic, the AE and GIR. Remember there was a Warlock class that came out on Earth Arcana. It gave you the ability to use the Hexblade to make guns. So now you can Hexblade with actual guns or lasers or whatever shit you want. And there was new technology-based spells. Like, you could hack mainframes, or you could fuck up with electricity and shit. It was so cool. And so I made a character named Major who had the ability to hack into electricity and stuff. I never really got to get into him though. Like once I introduced him and this German character, but then they made the Wish. It was the Wish that actually took them away from these characters. So I was really upset about that. Because I put a lot of effort in actually creating the characters.
Never say never.
Never say never. I will bring them back, because they're still on the ship with the rest of the crew. The rest of the crew was, Lou had a robot butler.
Excellent.
Who he named Rob. I gave him the ability to name him, and he named him Rob. And I was just like, yeah, that's cool. There was also a character I based off of the character from Firefly, the pilot. And there is a line at the end of Serenity when his character dies. Right before he dies, he says, "I'm like a leaf on the wind." It's really sad. It's terrible. And I hate to remind people of it. And I wasn't sure if they had seen it. I was kind of hoping they hadn't, because I named this character Leaf Win. His middle name was Andha, using the Icelandic D, which is a the, with a little fucking stick at the top of it. It's really neat. I think it's called Ed, and it makes Andha. So it's O-N Ev A. So Leaf Andha Win. And
you're getting into linguistics with us.
Yeah, I mean, you need it, kids. And I was really proud of this character because it's nice to have a character that everyone knows is gonna die and be sad about. I just made him really sweet and fun to talk to. Star Baby was one of my favorites because I really, really liked Tank Girl. There was a character who I cannot remember the name of. He had tattoos around his eyes that just... you know Mr. Game & Watch, right? He's got those big eyes, or like Kirby's eyes, right?
Yeah.
He basically had those going up and around his eyes, like just big black circles. And he was part of a gang called the Negatives. They needed information about something, which brought them to Star Baby, who was an X-negative.
Not a positive?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
What the fuck?
There's been a little bit of drinking going on, so
I
think I short-circuited Mark, you guys. I'm sorry about that.
Star Baby had... when I drew a picture of her, and it's gone now. If I can find it, I'll give it to you. And she had like a short cropped white fur jacket with razor blades coming out of it. She had a star tattooed on her face. And yeah, she just had a bunch of safety pins and short shorts and stuff on her. She just looked wicked cool. I forget what kind of hairstyle I gave her. I think I gave her a what do you call those? A bobby?
A bob cut?
Yeah, I think
that's kind of what I was imagining as well. Yeah.
And yeah, she was just a smart aleck, and I really liked her. And then Lou stabbed her in the hand because she was being a smart aleck. He got her on a ship, and he took a dagger, his wish dagger, and he drove it through her hand into the ship to get information. I don't even remember if she gave him the information. I imagine she did, or she passed out. But I was upset that he had done that. In the end, the Negatives brought them to a gang leader called Thane Krisk, who I talked about a minute ago or whatever. And they had to go to his...
The Kingpin figure.
The Kingpin figure,
yes.
Yeah. And I think he was a little more gelatinous. He wore black shades that kind of looked like those things that you look at diamonds with.
So we're talking like a cross between Wilson Fisk and Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah. And he had a Cockney accent. I gave him a Cockney accent.
Can you do a little bit of that for us right now?
When I do Cockney, I go to the Hitcher.
Oh, okay.
Stop fucking! You fucking boy, you think you're gonna mess with me now? I'm Thane Crisp. I know what I'm doing. Now fucking lie down.
And that's how I talk like him.
All of you are going to have already heard that at this point because that's going to be my intro lead-in. I'm sorry, I had to do it to him.
So my next question is something I like to always ask my guests on Campaign Corner. What was the most memorable story from this campaign setting?
So still talking about Thane Krisk. There's also that character that was based off of Mr. Torg, which I remember the name of. I actually looked it up. So there's a character named Krar from I think it's the Hulk's son from Planet Hulk, and I named him Krar after that because thick.
2 C's.
2 C's. Yeah. So that character, they enlist him to help out with going to Thane Christ's hideout, which was that little house-sized casino, 3-decker-sized casino off in the desert about 5 miles out. Their original plan was to sneak in, but Woken's a gigantic minotaur, and Krar is a gigantic human who only shouts because he's Mr. Torque. I think maybe even Starbaby was there, I'm not sure. So they get the idea to sneak in, but that does not work out as planned at all. So they just sort of like shoot in through the windows, and then they get people to come outside. They jump off the side of the building and through the front entrance, and they go in from the bottom to the second floor. And think of it as like an old timey saloon. I think now that I say casino, I mean one fucking crap stable. They go in, they start shooting everyone. Thane Krisk is fine, but he's also just like, you guys that way, you guys that way. They get into the fight, and after a while, it's losing its excitement. They had actually called for backup. This was something I did not see through, and I learned about it later, which is if you're gonna give your players a spaceship, limit that shit. So they called the spaceship in. The spaceship took a while to get there for no reason. It's a fucking spaceship. It has GPS. I don't know what the fuck I made take it so long. Eventually, I made a stone giant come out of nowhere in the desert and just start wrecking shit from the outside of the building. Mostly all of Krisk's men are dead. I don't know how to pluralize that or use a possessive. Krisk's? How would you... Krisk?
The Men of Krisk.
The Men of Krisk. Very good, thank you. The Men of Krisk, most of them are dead. They're still dealing with Krisk. I think it didn't take long. I have this thing when it comes to humanoid bad guys. I don't want to give them way too much HP. It's always been a little weirdly unbelievable when you go after... You played Grand Theft Auto. Like, oh, I'm going to kill this mafia boss. Well, how hard is it? It's like killing 50 men inside one person. Well, that doesn't make sense. I've shot him in the head 5 times. Why is he still up? I said he's a boss, though. I don't like to do that. So when
it's a very recurring game design flaw.
It's so weirdly... It's just weird to look at, So Krisk goes down kind of easily, but they don't actually kill him. And then that's when the giant comes out of nowhere. Apparently he's been running along. You could hear a rumbling, which is what I do. Like, something big is coming, but it's only a subtle rumbling coming from the distance. It doesn't seem that important right now. It's my loading screen. And then the giant comes, and that's when Krar really gets into action. So the giant comes, and he's just smashing about with a large stick of mountain that he seems to have for no reason. And both Woken and Mr. Torg Krar take turns jumping onto this giant's chest and just sort of stabbing him in the chest over and over again until the giant fucks them off. It didn't take a lot, like when I say on and off again. Like, they almost all died.
I'm imagining kind of a Shadow of the Colossus sort of situation here.
He wasn't that big of a giant, though. Giants, I feel like in our heads, are way bigger than they should be when you actually look at their stats and their height and stuff. Like, I feel like the stone giant was probably, 16 feet, which isn't all that big. And eventually, they're all about to die, and then I'm like, alright, I'll give them the spaceship now. The spaceship comes, and Lou orders it to just shoot the fuck up at the giant. And they succeed. Krar is left with 1 HP. And that wasn't me fudging or anything. He just was left with 1 HP. And I was just like, oh man, that was close. I really didn't want that character to die because he's too sweet. I remember, I don't know what got in their heads at that moment, but they eventually walked to find Krisk crawling away in the desert. And he's just, when he notices that they're behind him at that point, he's just, cursing them out. You're like, I'll get you next time, blah, blah, blah. And then Lou's just like, yeah, that's fair. And then I don't remember how he did it, or I don't know what he had, but he just set him on fire, but ensured that he would live.
How so?
I don't remember what he did exactly. I just know that Thane Krisk is fucked beyond, what is it, Fubar?
Yep.
Fucked beyond
all recognition.
Exactly. He set his ass on fire, but ensured he would survive it, so that he would just be in pain and just disabled for fuck ever. This, again, by the way, is 30 years back. I did design Thane Krisk to still be cool, and up and about, and super pissed. But now he's like mostly cyborg. I don't know. It was really, for me. I just really loved all of that. I really liked Krar jumping onto his chest, stabby, and then surviving with the 1 HP. And the thing I disliked but also liked was the fucking spaceship coming in and kind of ruining, but also saving Krar from any further damage. Lou's character doesn't do much. The one thing that he does do is he nails. It is impossible for some reason for him to fail any social encounter. He convinced an Imperial leader to get onto his ship alone so that he could be myrtleized.
He just has a lot of charisma.
Yeah, he has very high charisma. He chose all charisma-based checksy stuff. And it just works out. I'm just like, damn, he's just going to lie again. What am I going to do? I'll let 30 years go by, see if I can fuck with that. Which seems to have helped.
So, Mark, we've covered a lot so far. Past, present, 30-year timeline difference.
Fair.
Where would you like to see this campaign go from here?
There was 2 things that had been added to the campaign since that has not really come out to the players yet. They went into the last time we played, they entered a small settlement on Pethro, which is like Pandora, and it ended up with them going into a cave after kind of fucking with a town and meeting Alberto's Alucard. Alucard turned out to be part of an organization similar to how they had Alucard in fucking Helsing. But I didn't want it to be all about Alucard. So the organization that they're in now is called Scale, which I based off of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, from Marvel.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
S.H.I.E.L.D. is run by the Nick Fury type Jackie Rage. Jackie Rage is also a half-elf who hides her elf lineage. She's half dark elf.
Drow?
She's, half drow. She's super cool. She's also got an eye patch. Because I can't step away from cliches. And, so they're in Scale now doing minor shit. Basically the idea of Scale, actually it's funny that we were actually talking about this a little bit earlier. The idea of Scale is to find certain artifacts and either hold on to them or destroy them. These are ancient artifacts. So the Emperor Rob Zolga, his main deal is he wants to destroy the gods because magic is not allowed and neither is religion. He wants to destroy the gods. He wants to find those artifacts and either use them or destroy them to benefit him. So Scale is doing that as a way to make it so that neither the Empire or any other forces have power. Or at least more power to destroy everyone, right? I wanted to have them do more stuff like that, but I needed places for them to go, things to do. I bought that book, that 5th edition book, Tales from the Yawning Portal. You know that, yeah? So I got that, and I am transferring those adventures into Starfinder. So that's where we're going now. Right now, we're doing that first one, which is, what was it? It's about a tree. The Golthias tree. It's actually, it actually has to do with vampires, which is where I'm going to lead into vampires with that. So this is where all my vampires are going to come in. It's not just going to be, what's his name, Alfonso? Alucard. It's not just going to be Alucard. I'm gonna go into all of this vampire masquerade stuff eventually once we go through this first story of the Yawning Portal, which is, I can't remember the name of it. All I remember is the Golthias tree, which I probably shouldn't be saying because they shouldn't know that bit later. The Sunless Citadel. So it's the Sunless Citadel story that we're doing, which does have to do with vampires and a tree that none of you should know if you haven't actually read into it, so I apologize if I just spoiled a fuck ton of shit for you guys. But yeah, I want to get into that and then do more from the Yawning Portal, which is really just gathering shit for scale. We lost Woken as a character. So in my head and in the story, Woken has actually, so it's been 30 years. The Austere are free. The elves are free. They're no longer in quarantine. The Austere are free. It's a lot having to do with scale. There was a big agreement between the Emperor, the Empire, and then all the other settlements that weren't conquered. It's just like, we're going to be chill now. Can we be chill now? Can you guys calm down and stop conquering everything all willy-nilly? Is that going to be a cool, chill thing that we're going to do for now? Yes, we're fine. I'm sorry that it took so long. We're going to let them Elvies go, and the bull people can do their deal. And it's just like, you can't call us bull people. It's fucked up. So yeah, Woken went to go see his wife and child, even though it's been 30 years, and they're definitely dead. I actually did mention this, and I'm only kind of remembering it now. I don't know why he's leaving. He's going to see his corpse bride and child, which is fine, right?
For closure.
Like, let's see what I can do with this pile of bones. I need to bring back the Wyvern. The Wyvern campaign is now Wyvernless. I am working on a way to get them to meet with each other, and also a fun way to let them know that they're enemies of the state.
You could do like a Force Awakens style, like, I can't believe this ancient ship is still in a boneyard somewhere, or a scrapyard somewhere.
The last it was left was in space, but that can probably make sense. Also, I have not seen The Force Awakens. I also own The Force Awakens.
So right now we're looking at kind of a hybrid Gothic, Western, planetary exploration sort of sci-fi angle.
Sexposé.
Yeah. And we're going to throw in some vampires.
Oh, you know what else? I'm sorry. There was one adventure. I'm not going to go into it, but I based the entire thing off of Starship Troopers. And that was a really fun adventure that we had done. That was a short one. It was like underground, and it was great.
Like fascism, violence, the whole thing.
Mostly just fighting giant bugs. They were rust monsters.
I mean, that works within your translation of Pathfinder monsters.
Right. It was great.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning into this edition of Campaign Corner. If you liked it at all, please leave a like or comment down below, and all of the links to the previous installments. If you would like to be on an episode of Campaign Corner, please let me know. I'm always open to interviewing other guests. And I think our main takeaway from the Wyvern campaign is that...
Sexposé.
That's one. It's that if we do add any vampires, that Mickey Rourke will not be one of those vampires. Hashtag boycott Iron Man 2. Hashtag Mickey Rourke is not a real vampire.
He's gothic.
With 2 C's.
Yeah, 2 C's vampire.
Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. Catch you on the next one. Take it easy.
Bye.